Welcome to the Mindful Healers podcast with Dr. Jessie Mahoney
and Dr. Ni-Cheng Liang.
We are physicians and leaders who are also trained in coaching, yoga, mindfulness, and integrative medicine.
We are also mothers, spouses, sisters, daughters, aunts, and friends.
In this podcast, we share candid, heart-centered, loving, science-based, thoughtful, and often fun conversations about the challenges life throws at us.
With our collective experience of over 30 years in physician and personal wellness, we reflect and offer pearls of wisdom for navigating life's challenges with more ease.
From parenting, marriages, money scarcity, cancer survivorship, uncertainty, challenges in practicing medicine, we cover it all.
We invite you to refresh your perspective and empower yourself with mindset, mindfulness, and other well-being tools that actually work. A quick reminder that nothing in our podcast is medical advice. Welcome to today's episode on how to embody the abundance mindset with Dr. Miriam Rhew. Do you want to share mindfulness and coaching with loved ones and colleagues, but struggle to do so effectively?
Do you wish you were better at supporting other women and colleagues?
We wanted you to meet an old friend of both of ours, Dr. Miriam Rhew, who is a pediatrician and certified coach. She has been an absolute unconditional supporter of friends and colleagues, present company included. And we wanted you to hear from her how she masterfully and unconditionally supports other women.
She also is masterful at influencing family members, friends, and colleagues to jump in and engage in mindfulness, wellness, retreats, and all the things. And she uses coaching and mindfulness in her own life and in her medical practice. And so we wanted to share all of those with you today.
Welcome, Miriam. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on here.
So as we jump in, we thought what would be delightful is to talk about the importance of community and collaboration and this idea of supporting other women. And both Ni-Cheng and I were talking before we jumped onto this that you are exceptional at this. And it's something that we hear from a lot about women not supporting other women or wanting to, but not really knowing how. And so I would love to hear from you what your secret is or how you approach it, what the thought patterns are, because you are, again, one of the people I've met in my life who really has figured this out.
Oh, well, thank you so much for saying that. I appreciate it. That's actually a really interesting question because I don't think I consider myself as a big supporter. We met in Bora Bora, and I just remember just loving both of you and all the stuff that you were doing. I remember getting coached by Jessie. I remember having yoga with you. I remember doing mindfulness with Ni-Cheng and getting to be on a paddleboard for the first time in those beautiful blue waters. And so, I think really for the two of you in particular, I just wanted more of that. I remember that, Jessie, you wanted to do a retreat, and I was like, I'm signing up for that for sure. And then you had the Mindful Doctors Collective, and I'm like, I'm signing up for that. And so I think for me, a lot of it is, doing what I love. And, so I don't think for me, I don't know that I necessarily thought of it as supporting, but more just really going after what I wanted to do. And you guys were perfect people for that. So. Yeah.
Well, we're so grateful for the unconditional support that you have bestowed me and Jessie. And it means a lot, really, especially when we were first starting out in our pivoting from our traditional medical career pathways. And so, yeah, a huge bow of gratitude.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm thinking about this a little bit more, though, because I do think it's part of your abundance mindset that you're not only doing it for you, because I've seen you support lots of other people too. So I'm going to give you credit. You're deflecting the credit, but I'm still going to give you credit because I think Nietzsche and I are wonderful. We're going to go with that. But I also think that you are always encouraging and supporting others. And so what I heard you basically say is it's just your innate nature that you just do what feels right and authentic to you. But I've seen you support so many different people and always joining in and encouraging others to join in this very positive, delightful way. And I actually just recently, we had a podcast on scarcity mindset, and I reflected that almost every physician I know has a strong scarcity mindset except for you. So maybe we're born that way, or maybe it's just an interesting thing to think about. I know that you've done coaching and you've done mindfulness and you've done a lot of work on it. So I'm sort of, I'm wondering maybe you came that way, or do you have thoughts on that? Or was there something that you were raised with that lends itself to that?
That's a great question. I think some of it is, I think for me, it's always been kind of the life you lead are the lessons that you teach. And so, when I started on my coaching journey, kind of as I went along, I started with weight loss coaching and then financial coaching, then real estate coaching, and then coaching for women physicians. And I think for me, it was more that I'm just so excited to share what I've learned. I'm super glad that it shows up as support, but I more kind of enthusiasm for what I'm doing as kind of a way to share what I'm doing and to kind of bring people along. So I think that's probably for me, it's more, and that is how I lead my life, and with my kids as well, is, it's a lot of modeling. I try to, share with people that this has worked great for me and perhaps this will work for you, and give it a try. And so, there's no reason not to share all the goodness in the world. So I think that's probably what it is really for me.
I love that. I think it is the modeling, and what you model is so much more powerful than what we say. And you are a model of that as a friend and a mom and a colleague. And it's a good reminder that if you find something that's amazing to you, I think that's what appeals to me always, is people who are following their passion and doing what they love. And it's contagious.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I would love for you to give us an example of how you've modeled this abundance mindset for your kids.
Gratitude for what we have. And I think I do try to, even when they were younger, we always have to write thank you notes after every party that we have, because we've got to be grateful for what we have. So I think that was some of it for sure. And then as we eat, just noticing all the beautiful food that's there, and look at these great colors and things like that. So I think a lot of it's also just noticing all the great things that we have in our life. Again, it's helpful for me. So I think that it kind of translates.
To other places, I have noticed it pop up in our interaction. So both you and I had new drivers recently, and both you and I have had children applying to college recently. And I think for both of us, bringing coaching into those experiences and mindfulness into those experiences, and not like showing up, believing and trusting and thinking it's going to turn out okay, even when you're on the road with a brand new 16-year-old or 15-year-old who really doesn't know what they're doing, right? We sort of were able to bring this into the reality of parenting. And you and I were very much on a parallel journey of that over the last few years.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about it a little bit, that a lot of it also was, kids were teaching us so much. I mean, it was very interesting with my second child in particular. I think he's really great about having that abundance mindset. And so he was not at all stressed about school. He was like, you know what, if I get in, that's fabulous. If I don't get in, I'll just do community college, or I'll just travel for a year. There's plenty to do. It'll all be fine. So he was just totally relaxed about the whole thing. And we were talking about it with some friends the other day, that it was a very nice application process, because he was so just relaxed about the whole thing. And I think that did come from abundance. It wasn't like I have to get into this one place.
Also, you modeling it, right? Because when as parents, we think they have to get into one place, or it might not turn out okay. Or, if we're driving with them and we're thinking they're going to crash, right? We send that energy, and they are more likely to crash, or more likely to make the whole thing much more challenging, the college application. So it strikes me as I watch you're bringing all of that to all of these things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, and the impact. I mean, your son has experienced you going through this coaching and going through all this work for longer, right?
Yeah.
And so he's embodying it and he's absorbing it, which I think is pretty powerful.
Yeah. Thank you.
I just want to call out that both of you live mindfully and live the lessons from coaching. And I think it is very apparent that it bleeds through into your family life with both of your recent drivers and recent college applicants.
Well, and I was going to say, actually, I was definitely not so mindful pre-coaching and pre-mindfulness. And I often think to myself, actually, that it was thanks to Uni Chang with my first child, because she was starting driving right after I took that mindful doctor's course with you. And so I was able to use a lot of that mindfulness while she's driving. If I'm calm, she's calm, and it's all much better. Kind of breathing that through and sing that on, that would made a huge difference for her, because the way that I learned was a lot of yelling and military like commands. And I knew that did not work for me. So it was nice to kind of have that more mindful experience with my daughter. And it made a huge difference. So, and I really do credit you for a lot of that. That was very nice.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
I see you also, Miriam, as someone who's very effective at not just practicing it yourself and modeling for your children, but also having others like loved ones and friends and colleagues and influencing them. I'm thinking specifically of the Connect in Nature retreat, which you came to yourself one year, but you also brought a friend. And then the second year you came again and brought your husband and his friend. And I hear from so many people, well, how do I get my spouse to be interested in this? Or how do I get my friends? Or how do I encourage others? And I see you as having been successful at this. And I'm certain part of it is the modeling, right? And I will say, I'm super delighted that at least for right now, my husband's like, I think I'm going to come do yoga with you. And so sometimes it's just the modeling and them noticing that like, wow, you feel much better when you do it, or you're much nicer, or whatever it might be.
Right.
But I'm curious, you very successfully got your husband and his friend to join in the retreat and to buy into all the mindfulness and coaching when they had not been exposed to it at all. And I will point out they're males as well. And so I think that I'm really curious to hear what you think worked there.
My husband, I think when you're an early coach, you get super excited. And so I would try to like bring in a lot of coaching with my husband. And at some point he was like, you've got to stop. And so like, all right. So I think he was a little bit resistant to things that I was doing. But I think it was just seeing over time, like you are way more relaxed. And even at work, they're like, I was the doctor that could always get things done. And then suddenly I was like, wow, she's now the Zen doctor. She's really relaxed. She's not so stressed out at work. So I think, again, for my colleague at work, it was just like, okay, I want some of what she's having. And then with my husband, he and his friend Navneet, we all did residency together, but those two have a special bond. And so they like to do different CME together. And then I was like, oh no, but I'm going to be at Jessie and Lee Chang's retreat. And so why don't you just come there? And actually he was just like, yeah, sure, I'll give it a try. So I was like, beautiful. So that was nice. Yeah.
I love it. Actually, that seems like a good spot to pivot to talking a little bit about Connect in Nature. And to me, that's one way you've incorporated this into your life. We talked about how you've incorporated it into your parenting. And so I'm curious about your experience there. I always like to hear from people after the fact what they thought. So do you want to share a little bit? And I will add before you jump in that you've actually come twice. I'm curious about that experience too.
Well, I loved Connect in Nature, especially because, well, number one, the two of you were there, and that was fantastic. But it was also super local, and just spending time in Muir Woods and Green Gulch is absolutely magical. And to know that it's just right there, I think was super fun. So it was great that it was close by. I think it was just a really good time for a reset. I think the first time I went, it was actually right after my mother died. I was trying to block out a lot of things. I think, I was trying to process the grief, but sometimes it just got so overwhelming that, I actually went back to work, I think, 3 or 4 weeks right after my mom died. And some of that was just to keep myself busy. And so I think the retreat happened like 3 or 4 months. And so it was a good time for me to just release a lot that I had been holding in. So that was wonderful. And then just to really connect with you guys and the other people that were there was beautiful. And just to notice the beauty around me, and a lot of kind of both and, right? You can be in grief and also find, beautiful joy at the same time. That was great. And for me, trees have always been really magical. So to get to spend all that time with trees was great. And just to notice that they were grounded but shallow and spreading those roots. And I think that helped me a lot. And so, yeah.
What was it like coming a second time? Because the retreat didn't change a whole lot, but I think the experience was different for you.
Yeah, it was definitely different, especially because my husband was there. And again, it was just always going to be a different experience just because, I've changed, people have changed. I remember actually when we were in Bora Bora with you, Jessie, in particular, I had given a list of lessons that I had learned, and you were like, wow, I had completely different lessons, right? And it was just because we were at different points in our journey and we're different people, and I wasn't going through as much grief at that time. So it was a little bit more joyful at the time.
And you've also paddled.
Yes.
With us each time that we've offered it. So can you share a little bit about that experience? And also we paddled together in Bora Bora too. And then also when you were here in San Diego. So I have been paddling with you 4 times now, Miriam.
Exactly. And I think those were the only times that I've paddled. So I totally appreciate all that paddle boarding with you. And I remember like the first time, right, it was all kind of fear-based. I'm just going to do this because it's scary. And then this most recent time, actually, when we were at Pigeon Point, I was going into the waves, but then I had changed directions a little bit. The boat had come by and the waves were going to hit me the other way. So then it was more like I'm going to ground myself. And so, I love that, there's always different lessons to be learned. And so for me, that was a really powerful one this particular time, was to ground myself.
So between the paddling and the Connect in Nature retreats, how have you brought some of the lessons into your practice of medicine?
Thank you for asking that question, because I think that for you guys, you guys have been both super instrumental in the way that I practice medicine, for sure. So, at the same time that we went to the retreat in Bora Bora, I was starting to transform our practice to be more trauma informed. And I bring in a lot of, I think with you, Nichang, in particular, kind of that little bits of mindfulness all throughout the day, just kind of breathing. And actually, you too, Jessie, because I always remember the breath is always available. I say that to my patients all the time. So when I'm doing the physical exam, usually we're breathing together. And then I almost always ask, like, how did that feel? Didn't that feel good? How do you feel more relaxed? And just noticing that. And then, washing my hands when I'm in the room, and so I'm starting to do a lot more kind of intentional mindfulness with kids in practice. And so that's been fantastic.
And all of our lives actually have changed quite dramatically since the pandemic started.
I actually would reflect that I think intentional change in all of our lives too. Very purposeful in terms of many of us letting go of things, but also choosing what we bring back in and choosing the focus and choosing that what we pay attention to is very different now, I would say, for all 3 of us than it was in 2019 when we met.
Yeah. And for me, I guess, just thinking about like pre and post, definitely living a more intentional life, and also really wanting to kind of change the culture of, and you guys are doing the exact same thing, but changing the culture of medicine, healing, and being more holistic and integrative in our approaches. I definitely have been doing a lot of that in our pediatric practice.
Tell us a little bit more about what you have brought into your pediatric practice intentionally in the last 4 years. It seems different than the average pediatric practice, and I think it would be really helpful for others to hear about what's possible.
Yeah. So one thing that I've been trying to do is bring in more food as medicine practice. And I think, you just went to the Healthy Kitchens, Healthy Lives. And so I had done that right after we went to Bora Bora. My good friend Karen Vance, who's also a pediatrician, two of us pop on a plane to see Mi Chang and Sabrina at Olivewood for a culinary experience. And for both of us, that was, pretty life-changing. I mean, because we've always believed that food is medicine, really loved the whole teaching kitchen thing. And so to see it, to see other people do it, we were like, oh, we can do this, and we can do this with kids. Our brains started churning about, what we were going to do. And so Karen decided to actually do a culinary medicine thing. And then I started doing more mindfulness kind of stuff. And I actually took a hypnosis coaching course as well. And so we have kind of created a business to kind of incorporate all of that with kids. All these kids are going to be adults. And so many of these things that we suffer with in adulthood started in childhood, right? So if you could really impact the kids, then that would be great. We would start what are your roses and thorns as just kind of a way to connect with them at the beginning. And then we had different mindfulness activities, a lot that we learned from both of you, and mindset activities. And then we did yoga. We usually did animal yoga. So we also did cleaning as movement. And then we would do some cooking for 20 minutes. And a lot of it was just to show families that, you can do all these things and you can do them all in very short bits of time. And so that's been really fun. And then I also started working with a group called Dovetail Learning, and it's more resilience program. So I've been working with different groups with the AAP Chapter 1 for pediatricians, as well as with parents. And that's just to, a lot of the stuff we learn in coaching. And so we talk about different protective patterns. So that's a lot of the trauma reactions that we have. So like hypervigilance or attacking. And then, just noticing what ones we use the most, not labeling ourselves, but just noticing our patterns. And then, what are the centering skills that we can use, and connecting skills and collaborating skills. And then a lot of it was also just, kind of, again, changing our practice to be more trauma informed. During the pandemic, we actually got together daily, and I usually brought in some kind of mindfulness first to start off with, just breathing together and talking to each other. Because I think a lot of times, in medicine, it's a lot of top down, like doctor says this, everyone else needs to follow that along. I learned that, collaboration is much more powerful. We really are, our practice is actually really working together, and everyone is there to kind of help heal the families. And it's not just the doctor, right? So I think that's a really beautiful thing.
That's beautiful. This collaborative team approach founded upon education. What are some of the changes that you've seen in the parents and your patients?
When we did the Lifeology Labs course, we had kids that were like, I had spinach for the first time and it was delicious. We were like, wow, and then did, I think Pyle actually during one of the Mindful Healthcare Collectives things, did the hot chocolate breathing exercise. And so we brought that into the program. And one of the families was like, yeah, we did that on our way to school. And it was so helpful. And so I just love that, when you can bring in little tidbits of things and just make the days go by easier for the families. I think it makes such a huge difference, and it really does not take long. So I think that's, for me, it's been amazing to see that the families actually take a lot of that in, and they pick and choose, right? And so we're not necessarily promoting a certain way to live, but that you guys do this beautifully, but just inviting people to do these things, and whatever works for them, use that. And if it doesn't, that's okay, right? But giving lots of different tips and tricks and tools.
One of the things that I notice, especially in peds, is that yes, we're teaching the kids, but kids tend to already be more mindful. We have to teach the parents to not unteach the kids. And so much of it is helping parents be more mindful. And we were talking about Healthy Kitchens, Healthy Lives. And I have a guest who's going to come on, the woman who gave this talk. It was a really great talk about finding peace in the kitchen, about like food preferences and arguments and energetic conflicts around what kids are going to eat and having, family dinners. And so she gave this whole talk on that. But the premise was essentially it's mindfulness, right? If we show up mindful with specific intentions around connection, and that being the purpose of the meal, not about how many bites of this or that you try. Anyway, it just struck me that so much of what we do and so much of what she was talking about, the peace in the kitchen is found through the parents, just like the peace in the driving lesson is found through the parents, and the peace in the college application, and same thing. And so it strikes me that that's one of the things about PEDS that's so fun, is that we're really bringing all of these tools to everyone, right? The kids grow up, but as you and I mentioned earlier, it's when we model them, then the children absorb them, and or I'm thinking don't unlearn their natural mindfulness that they started with, because I think that's a lot of what we do as parents, that we could change.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and the other thing that's great with PEDS is that, it's all play, right? So it just makes it so much more enjoyable to do.
And we've talked in this podcast about how play is actually mindfulness, right? You need to be mindful in order to play, and mindful in order to sort of drop into that joy and fun and being in the moment.
I want to highlight that the mindfulness and the coaching lessons that you embody have enabled you to practice medicine in your own unique way. And I think in and of itself, it's been playful, especially as you're bringing in the curriculum for the kids and the parents. And so thank you for being open to all of this, and also for being an example of what's possible.
Thank you.
So as always, as we close, we like to end with some reflection questions. What would it be like to embody an abundance mindset where you chose intentionally not to let compare and despair mindset drive your thoughts and actions?
Would you like to share mindfulness and coaching with others? Who? And what techniques might you want to try?
And how might you bring mindfulness and coaching into your own practice of medicine?
Thank you all so much for joining us today. It's been our pleasure to chat with you, Miriam, and thank you for agreeing to come on and share your experience and your journey with us. We would love, I think, today to just share the opportunity to join us at Connect in Nature. And I don't know, maybe Miriam will be there again, bringing someone new this time. But we will be there in September this year, a slightly different time of year. And we would love to have anyone join us to play in the trees. Essentially, that's what we do: breathe and play in the trees, practice a little yoga and a little coaching along the way. But we would love to have any of you join us, so you can find out about that. The links will be in the show notes.
Thanks so much for joining us.
We encourage you to dive into the show notes for each episode for more learnings and resources.
We also invite you to take a listen to the many other Mindful Healers podcast episodes, and please share the podcast far and wide with colleagues, friends, and family.
If our message and approach resonate with you, we would love to work with you.
When you listen to a podcast, you consume information, but when you work with us, you can actually practice and change.
We offer coaching and mindfulness experiences, talks, workshops, retreats, and more. Connect with us at themindfulhealerspodcast.com.
The content of this podcast is not medical or life advice. We invite you to participate in the mindful moments we offer at the end of most of our podcasts, but please only do so safely.
Welcome to today's mindful moment. Taking a moment to pause and connect with abundance. Connect with what's right in the world, what feels good, what's going well.
not to ignore what's not going well, but to find steadiness, find security, and find safety. So wherever you might be, notice your feet on the earth or your sit bones on your chair. Connect to the sense of groundedness, the sense of safety, the sense of in this moment, wherever you are, all is well, no matter what else may be swirling around you. And bring a hand to heart and another hand to top. And if it's safe for you to do so, close your eyes. If it's not safe, just opt out and come back to your breath. Breathing in all that is good, sunshine, warmth, green trees, blue skies, rain to provide water, whatever it might be. Breathing in a sense of goodness, even just this moment of calm and peace and steadiness. Breathing in, breathing out the tension. As you breathe in, receive and enjoy. Breathe out tightness and stress. Pause for a moment and enjoy how you feel. Checking out your heart space and appreciating for a moment that you have a heart, that it mostly works, that it beats every moment of every day, that it nourishes your body, delivers oxygen. Breathing in and breathing out and allowing yourself to enjoy that oxygen circulating, the oxytocin being released from the hand on heart, lessening the cortisol hand on hand, rubbing the skin together, taking a moment to really enjoy. Enjoy your breath. And take a moment to notice all in your life that's going well right now. What's working? Could be as simple as a roof over your head, running water, sunshine, your health, the ability to get out of bed, the ability to eat, the ability to sleep. What is going well in your life? Who loves you? Who do you love? What do you love? What parts of your body work well? What parts of your body feel good? Connecting with the abundance that you have in your life. All of the things that are there that you love, that work, that you enjoy. Breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Allowing yourself to receive that sense of abundance. And enjoy it. And notice in this state how you might connect with possibility. What might be possible? What could be possible? And let your brain just creatively think and enjoy. And with this mindset, lower your hands and open your eyes and coming back into wherever you are and just noticing all that you see and connecting with creativity and possibility and opportunity. And let yourself enjoy. Thanks so much for practicing with me today. May you all have a beautiful week.